welcome back to the Rant and Review Pro Wrestling. Lots of wrestling news we're going to pick up on today, including news about Sasha Banks, news about FTR's possible future, where they may or may not wind up, people filing trademarks, all kinds of stuff. But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys, of course, you know, this is YouTube, and YouTube loves its like button, and especially loves it when you press the like button. So if you like this video, if you like pro wrestling, if you like sports entertainment, hell, if you like panda bears, go ahead and take your finger, take your mouse, click on that like button. It does help out the channel, and it does tell YouTube that, hey, wrestling fans like this stuff. Maybe you should show it to other wrestling fans who look at YouTube. So I appreciate it very much. And now let's talk about all the news stories that are going on in the world of pro wrestling and sports entertainment. Matt Cardona apparently has filed for a trademark. There's been a lot of rumors going around. Of course, with Triple H taking over WWE Creative last year, Cody Rhodes going back to the company, a lot of people thought, hey, you know, Matt Cardona, you know, his time might be up in Impact and on the Indies, and maybe he's going to be going back and becoming Zack Ryder again in WWE. Well, interestingly enough, people have found out that Cardona has filed for the trademark of Zack Ryder. So what this means in the future of him possibly going back to the E again, with all the stuff going on there now, with Vince McMahon taking over and his big corporate power play and the eventual sale of the company, we don't know. But if he is filing for the trademark of Zack Ryder, if WWE's ownership of that trademark has expired, this is something to watch out for, because, you know, as great as the name Matt Cardona is, many people know him as Zack Ryder, and if he can get hold of that trademark, it would be a lot better for him, for his own pocketbook and his own career, and it gives him the freedom to go anywhere and do whatever he wants. So we're going to definitely keep an eye on that in the future. Someone else also kind of unhappy with, or possibly having their future ideas about going back to WWE change, is Dax Hardwood from FTR. Now, it's known full well that coming up this April that FTR's contract with All Elite Wrestling will expire. Dax and Dash FTR are currently on a bit of a break, and Dax Hardwood's podcast and on his YouTube channel and on any podcast network you listen to, which is a good listen. It's actually a pretty good podcast. I learn a lot from listening to Dax's clips from his podcast and watching some of the YouTube videos. One of the more interesting things is he talked about back when, you know, when they were on the main roster in WWE and FTRko, when they took on, I believe it was the New Day, and they had this really great tag team match, and they won the tag team championships, being the first ever team in WWE history to be NXT, SmackDown, and Raw tag team champions. They were on a big high. They went backstage to Gorilla. Vince praised the New Day, sent them off, but he talked to FTR and said this, you guys, I keep hearing from you guys, you're the next big thing, that you're next Arn and Tully, and that's the true thing. You are the next Arn and Tully. You're just wrestlers. And he said that in kind of a dismissive way of them, because, as we all know, Vince McMahon isn't a big fan of pro wrestling or pro wrestling, which is why I call my channel what it is, by the way. He's not a fan of wrestling. And Dax and Dash are wrestlers. And Dax said, you know, he thought he was insulting us, but I took it as a compliment, because that's who they held themselves up to, Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. And there's nothing wrong with being Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, who were the Brainbusters and I believe 2-time WWE Tag Team Champions. He talked about that on the podcast, and, you know, once I heard that, the thought of them going back to WWE if Vince is in control of the company again, I think when Triple H and Stephanie and Nick Khan were the ones running it, I could see FTR next year going, or this year now, going to WWE and probably finishing out their careers there. But now, and plus maybe selling the company, I think Dax has pretty much kind of hinted that it might be a little less likely of them going to WWE, or at least it was an option that they were heavily considering before, but now with things that have gone on over the last couple of weeks, the option seems it might be a lot more limited than what it was about a month ago. And some sad news, and this is also, of course, coming off the sad news earlier this week of Jay Briscoe passing away in a car accident. We also do remember, of course, recently Kevin Nash's son also passed away in another unfortunate situation. And there's a little bit more going on with that now, as we had this unfortunate report coming out that there was a wellness check for Kevin Nash. The article reads that the sheriff's office in Louisiana County, Florida, conducted a wellness check on pro wrestling legend Kevin Nash this week. The wellness check occurred due to concerning comments that Nash made on his Click This podcast, which Nash told police he has no intention to act on. And I tracked down a clip, and yeah, it's a bit concerning. And you know, these things, it's good that they do these things, because you know, losing somebody, and you know, obviously we've seen this recently in the wrestling industry. I've seen this in my personal life recently. A couple of people I know have lost loved ones in unexpected deaths. Let's call them that. And you do want to do a wellness check, because that's nothing to play with. People can get depressed, and that can lead them to do things. So we do hope that nothing bad happens, obviously, for Kevin Nash, and that he is saying that, you know, he was just talking, he's just venting, he's just getting his emotions out. Obviously, losing your son, that's nothing a parent ever wants to do. And if he's venting and expressing his emotions, that's one thing. But when you do that too, it is also kind of a red flag to some people that maybe we should check up on you and make sure you're okay. So I do hope that Nash is okay, and that it doesn't lead to anything worse than what we saw or heard there. We also have news, speaking of former stars from the Attitude Era and the Monday Night War era. Devon Dudley, who's been working as a producer for WWE, posted on his social media account that he and the company have decided to part ways. He's been a producer there since 2016. So, you know, this is, again, another thing that, I mean, people may draw some conclusions to this, but I don't think it's a big sign of anything because of Vince and what he's doing. You know, they hire and fire producers that are former wrestlers all the time in WWE, but it is something to note, and maybe it is something that's a sign of what may be to come, because nobody has any idea what the corporate side of WWE is doing these days. And Mercedes Mone has come out and talked about why she chose to go to New Japan and be part of their women's division instead of going back to WWE once her contract expired. She did note a number of things. In fact, her love of Joshi wrestling, which I did not know about, and that she loved the tough way in which those wrestlers wrestled. And now, hearing her and seeing her say that, I kind of go back and think about her style and the way she wrestled in NXT and on her main roster push. And now, if you go back and look at it, you can totally see it. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Sasha Banks would be a fan of Joshi's style of wrestling. I'm all about history. If it's not about history, it doesn't make any sense. When I found out about the IWGP Women's Championship, my heart was filled with so much joy, and I knew instantly what I wanted, and that was that title. She went on to talk about how she's wrestled Asuka, formerly known as Kana, and Io Shirai and Kairi Sane in WWE, and she enjoyed wrestling those women there. She's been watching Stardom and a lot of the other female Joshi promotions around over the last few years, and she wanted to be a part of that, especially if New Japan Pro Wrestling was crowning its first IWGP Women's Champion and starting up an IWGP Women's Championship division. Of course, she will be headlining against Kairi for the IWGP Women's Championship coming up at the next US show, the Battle in the Valley show for New Japan Pro Wrestling, which I definitely will be checking out myself and be doing a review of on this channel. So stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for other things here as we continue to cover the news and all the craziness in the world of pro wrestling and sports entertainment right here on the Rant and Review Pro Wrestling. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good day.